Hey reader, welcome back to the channel. This is Centaur here, and today we are taking a look at the medical vehicle special rule. Now, we talked a shy bit about ambulances when we discussed medics back in the day. But I decided as I was looking at it, you know what? Medical vehicle technically is a little bit different from medic, and I kind of was doing it in a very offhand way. So we're going to do a relatively quick video today talking about the medical vehicle as a special rule. And the short answer is, I don't like it. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Ironically, it actually has more to do with other rules that are in the game than the medical vehicle rule. And it ironically doesn't feel very good because of medics. More on that in a little bit. But just suffice it to say, as we're taking a look at this from a theme perspective, what is a medical vehicle supposed to represent? It's an ambulance. Okay, nice and simple. It's an ambulance, right? I mean, it literally, the medical vehicle begins with being in proximity of an ambulance means. Okay, and then it goes into the treatment. You'll also notice here it is a very short special rule, which is awesome, and it's so easy to remember. Okay, page 149 of the rule book. If you are within 6 inches of a medical vehicle, you count as being within 6 inches of a medic, and then you flip over to look at the medic, and the medic walks through how everything works. Okay, which is just really nice, right? It's simple. It's easy to remember. It works exactly the same way that a medic does, and I think that's great. This does also mean, however, because you count as being within 6 inches of a medic, that there are provisos on how the save works, right? So similar to a medic, when somebody suffers a wound within 6 inches, if it is a small arms wound, they get a chance at a 6+ save. Okay. If you're hit by a high explosive damage template, no save. If you're hit by any heavy weapon, including a heavy machine gun, right, that is not doing an HE template against infantry and artillery, there is no save. If you get attacked in close combat, there is no save. And to be completely honest, while I do not recommend that you go and look this up online, if you are injured in close combat by a bayonet or shot at extremely close ranges by something like, say, a submachine gun, there's a very high chance that your average field medic is not going to be able to save you from that. At the bare minimum, they might be able to stabilize you to the point where they can put you on the stretcher, take you to the medical vehicle, and get you back home to save your life. But fighting condition, so that you continue fighting with the rest of your squad, highly unlikely. Okay, I suppose there's a chance you get hit in a very specific spot. Call it one small finger, where you might still be combat capable of a sort until the end of the sortie is done. Okay, but in general, as far as I can tell, the limitations that Warlord has put on this is, and I say this as somebody who has worked with a lot of injured veterans at work, this feels right to me. Okay. And so toward that end, just know that your medical vehicle is not better at saving people than a medic is. It still has the same requirements, okay? It is admittedly harder to wound this than a medic is, right? So you're looking at DV6 or DV7 as opposed to DV4 or DV5. So it is a little bit harder to wound them. Admittedly, you are probably taller, right? There are some exceptions. So there are some like Kubelwagen style medical vehicles, which are actually probably a reasonable bit shorter than some of your average infantrymen. So in that sense, there's that. But again, from a pure wounding difficulty perspective, at least they have to headhunt a 6 in order to get to you. You do take up more space on the board than a single medic does. And again, as a quick reminder, with the way that the medic rule is worded, you are drawing your distance of 6 inches to the medic and not the medic unit. So while orderlies can be purchased for a medic, it's really more so if your medic comes under fire, you can take them as casualties before taking the medic. It doesn't actually extend the 6-inch bubble. That's the important thing. You're not going to turn it into a 6-inch oval, right, around the orderlies and the medic. Just as a quick note on how that works, okay? It also allows you to field this in a rifle platoon medic slot, okay? Which, admittedly, I feel like it would actually be nicer if it took up transport slots instead of medic slots, because it means you could actually run multiples of these more reliably. You wouldn't have to pay the tax of having to take a whole nother rifle platoon, which would be at least the officer and another 2 rifle sections, right? So it's not a cheap thing in order to be able to run these. But at the very least, like you could hypothetically have multiples of these running around if you were willing to pay the tax. Okay. In terms of the wording of this, it's exactly the same as second edition. No changes, no notes, which is fantastic because again, it's super simple, easy to remember, which is fantastic from a rules perspective. So does this help? The answer, in my opinion, is no, right? Over here on the right-hand side, you see this this example of a kind of Kubelwagen medical vehicle, kind of cool. But just a couple of quick math stats for you. We are not going to go deep into this because, again, we'll make this a shorter video because we already talked about this a little bit with medics. When you look at a DV6 medical vehicle, they're going to cost you between 38 and 46 points, right? Taking regular or veteran. At DV7, it's going to be closer to around 58 to 70 points. It all depends because some armies get access to DV7, some of them do not. It is not a one of those commonly available vehicles that we get in the core rulebook to take it as a DV7. You do get them as commonly available vehicles in the DV6 variety. Okay. The result is, however, if you were to purchase this Kubelwagen medical vehicle as a regular, call it a regular, right? Because it's cheaper. It's only 38 points at DV6. Would you be better off taking this for 38 points regular, or would you be better off taking 23 points for a medic and then another 14 points for a Jeep, which is only 37 points? Okay. You get the exact same footprint because you take this, you're taking a Kubelwagen, right? It's the exact same car plus a medic. You're saving 1 point. You're getting the same footprint. You get the same 6+ save. Because per the rules for medics, and this was confirmed in the errata, the medic can use its 6-inch save even while it's in a soft skin vehicle, but you get 2 order dice instead of 1 order dice. And you have 2 transport slots still left out of a 3 transport unit, which means you could transport an AT rifle team to go with you, or a Panzerschreck team, or an officer, or any number of other things that only have 2 people in it. You can transport that too, along with all of this stuff. So you don't have to buy a transport for them as well. Whereas with a medical vehicle, it has no transport capacity. So you can't carry any people in it, presumably because you're carrying the stretcher crew and the medic and leaving room enough for potentially carrying out a person, maybe even more than 1 person, depending on the size of your medical vehicle. So, like, it is more expensive. It is basically at the same cost if you were to buy like a medic with a truck. So if you were to buy like a 12-man capacity or 8-man capacity sort of thing, along with it, then you're looking at pretty comparable costing in terms of price. Again, still you can buy them pretty cheap, which is great. And then you're getting way more transport capacity. And again, you're still getting that second order dice. And if you were to take a medic with a DV7 sort of vehicle, so for example, if you're the Germans and you want to take I think it's the SDKF 250/1. Yeah, there it is, right over there. 250/1, which has a transport capacity of 5. It comes with a medium machine gun. It is on par for cost in terms of what you would expect. It's slightly more expensive by a couple points, but you're now getting 2 order dice. You're getting a machine gun that can fire. You're still getting transport capacity, and you're getting the exact same medic save. So from a value perspective alone, in my opinion, this is bad. Okay, there's really not a whole lot of reasons to run this vehicle, the medical vehicle, with the medical vehicle special rule over and against a medic inside of a transport. Okay, but second, and this is a bigger issue that I've mentioned, and I mentioned this way back when I was first playing with some guys in like Warhammer 40k 5th edition. I mentioned this when playing with people in Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition, when I would run, explaining why I would always take shields on my Gores instead of running them with 2 hand weapons. I explained this in Lord of the Rings back when we had 6+ Fury saves, which nowadays with the new edition, Fury doesn't give a save. But, back when we had 6+ Fury saves, a 6+ save is not a save, okay? A 6+ save is a prayer to the dice gods. And in my experience, it is extremely finicky, which is why I don't tend to put a lot of, libations on that altar, okay? As a general rule. If you're an inexperienced medic of any kind, right? If you need to save 6 people in order to get your cost back, right? On average, that is 36 wounds being dealt to your unit. And as a quick reminder, if a unit, for example, has 3 models, it suffers 4 wounds, and you save 1 of them, you still lose the unit. Okay? It's not, well, it doesn't matter how many you did. I get to keep a guy, right? Anybody who's ever played, for example, Rebels in Star Wars Legion, which I have done almost exclusively with Star Wars Legion, you are well aware that just because you roll 1 save doesn't mean you saved the unit. Okay? Like, and I'm sorry. I get a little bit ticked off with this because you'll see people in the in the comments who are going to say invariably, well, if I get a save and I save the unit, so I save the order dice, that's worth it. I'm here to tell you that's not how the math for wounding works, because making one save does not mean you retain one man. It means the number of wounds that are dealt is reduced by one, and then you deal them. And there is a reasonable chance that it doesn't actually make a difference, okay? When it comes to regulars, you would need to save at least 4 people in order to make this medical vehicle worth it. That is an average of 24 wounds to your squad. And I guess my big question is, are the 20 that slip through still going to be enough to cause you to lose the game? Right? With veterans, you get the best math for these regular DV6 vehicles, because again, these are the ones that you get for everybody, right? Where you only need to save 3 people in order to get it back. Now, on average, that means there's going to be 18 wounds going into your squads, right? You might be okay. Again, I feel like 18, going down to 15 wounds still going through is still pretty darn bad against veteran infantry, right? So, in my opinion, the save is not reliable. There's a very good chance that saving one man doesn't actually save the unit, because you needed to save 3 and you only saved 1, right? In order to actually keep one guy within the squad. And so I just don't think that works, okay? In addition, and this is, I think, my bigger issue, if I'm going to spend 38 to 58 points in order to buy a medical vehicle, because, by the way, I would never take a medical vehicle veteran. I will always take it regular, because, again, it's not like the veteran does anything. More on that in a little bit when we talk about changes I would make. The veteran doesn't actually do anything. The overwhelming majority of enemies are not going to be throwing tons of pins at you, so order dice activation is not particularly likely. When they are going to go after you, they're probably just going to go after you, okay? And especially if you're looking at that DV6 variety where it's only 46 points for the veteran, there's a higher likelihood that instead of your opponent shooting at you, what they're going to do is they're going to shoot at all the other stuff, and then they're going to just run a unit forward and try to be closer to you than they are to the rest of your army. And because you're a soft-skinned vehicle that is in all other respects treated as a transport, if they are closer to you than you are to them, your medical staff flee and they leave the vehicle and it is considered a wreck and they remove the order dice, which is way easier than trying to roll a 6 with small arms. They could also just headhunt you with an AT rifle, or headhunt you with a heavy machine gun, or headhunt you with an autocannon or something else like that, because you're a vehicle, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff they could do. If they're throwing AT guns at you, that might actually be a net positive for your army, to be honest, because they shot at a medical vehicle with an AT gun, okay? When they could have been shooting at more serious threats that are on your table. So, in my opinion, stepping back and asking the question, if I am going to buy these things at 38 to 58 points, am I better off buying one medical vehicle to try to save my men? Or am I better off taking additional squads of people to put shots down range to keep the enemy suppressed so that they don't shoot at my people, right? Am I better off spending 58 points buying one medical vehicle or buying 2 AT rifles? Now, some people really hate AT rifles. I'm just telling you, I think there's a legitimate question there, right? Am I better off trying to protect my infantry by taking a medical vehicle or by taking a machine gun team, possibly with a subtype that is extremely useful for me, right? I think there's legitimate questions here as to what it is that we're actually investing in and whether or not we need this, okay? Am I better off just buying 3 transports for the same cost, right? Because you can fit 3 transports for the same cost and just relying on, I get my order dice first. Even if there's nobody in those transports, I'm getting an order dice first, so I get to dictate the momentum of the round, right? And then finally, and this is, I think, the biggest issue that I have, and this goes back to why 3 transports, even if you don't put anybody in them, might be better. Is it better to rely on a 6+ save, or is it better to rely on a 5+ cover save for being a soft skin vehicle? And if you get turned into a wreck, now a 4+ heavy cover save because you're a wreck, right? Like, the best benefit that medical vehicles actually have is the fact that you can use them as mobile cover on the map where the board designers had intended that area to be open ground, right? Where people can easily take advantage of firing lanes. And if that's the case, why would I buy 38 points worth of one medical vehicle when I could buy 3 Kubelwagens for a few points more? And now I'm getting more cover in more places all over the place. And if they want to blow them up, by all means, let them. Right? So I'm sorry, I don't think they're very good. I don't think they're very good. So what changes would I make to medical vehicles? There's 2 simple changes. And this builds off of, and the reason why I set this like 8 months after the medic vehicle, the medics video, I had a little more chance to think about it. There are two things that I would consider doing. The first is I would allow medical vehicles to give you a reroll on a failed save. So it'd be a 6+ rerollable. And the reason why I would give that is because unlike your average field medic who's running around with his orderlies, these would have a lot better staffing as a general rule. Now, I'm also of the mind, and you'll see this in Zern Mission Pack, that if you take orderlies, the benefit of the orderlies is if a unit is wounded and they fail the 6+ medic save, you can give them another chance, a reroll to the save if there's an orderly that's also within 6 inches. That's how I would do it, okay? And the simple reason is, again, we want to give people a reason to pay the amount of points that they're paying in order to take these models, okay? And I think that would be fine. The second thing that I would consider doing, because of the fact that it's cost increase without really giving you a whole lot of benefit, to be completely honest, and I would do this for medics as well, is make it so that veteran medical vehicles and veteran medics instead do a 5+ save, okay? Now, I know what everybody's going to say. Because this is distinct from a cover save, giving a save and then followed by another save, I don't think that that's very good, Aaron. This could lead to a whole lot of abuse of the system, right? Especially if I've got like a forward observer unit or something like that that's in heavy cover and they're getting a 3+ save, or maybe they're in soft cover and they choose to go down, so now they're getting like a 2+ save, and then there's a 5+ save on top of that. First things first, if you're shooting at somebody with small arms doing this, yes, I think trying to dig out veterans that are heavily entrenched and they've got medics on hand, I don't think that that works. The second thing that I would recommend as regards this is shoot them with high explosive damage. Hit them with heavy machine guns. All the kinds of things that say medic save, no medic save. Because again, that rule is not changing, right? The third thing that I would consider is, yeah, you might need to give a reason now for people to do close combat and assault, because that is also not a medic save. There's also no cover save from any of that. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? So if people want to game it and they want to take advantage, there are easy counters already built into the rules that none of these negate. But furthermore, and this is the big thing, as somebody who's been playing recently, not only with soft cover as a save in bolt action, where I'll be honest, I don't trust it to do very much. It is extremely swingy trying to get that 5+ to work. So in my mind, I don't even think a 5+ medic save is going to make a dramatic difference in a good number of fights. I think you are going to still see more value out of it, but I don't think it's going to change things utterly dramatically. But second, having played a lot with 5+ and 6+ saves in StarCraft recently, I can tell you, and some of those on every single attack that's going through, I can tell you, you're not actually going to save that many. Okay, the math is pretty bad actually on a 5+ save being a reliable save, but it does at least make it a little better. And it gives you a reason to say, I'm going to put close to 40 points, maybe more than that, maybe even up to 70 points in a purely support unit, right? Possibly on top of having already taken a chaplain. And when that could be easily 8 to 10% of your army, just to take one along with a chaplain, I think that's a lot to consider, right? And you should be getting some value out of it. Furthermore, the fact that it's restricted by the number of slots that you can take, again, I'm not saying we should be able to put these guys into transport slots. I say, yeah, this takes up your medic slot. You want to run multiple of these medical vehicles or veteran medics running around trying to do stuff? Yeah, go ahead and take multiple rifle platoons. It's perfectly fine. It's keeping you from some of the other spam that you could be doing, right? I think this gives you a good reason to take one. I think it gives you a good reason to actually invest in your medical vehicle / other medics. I think it gives you a good reason to kind of not just lean into DACA, right? Because maybe you lean into this, they were planning on DACA, they don't get the DACA that they expect, and so now you're able to make up for it because of your support. I think all of this is really good. So I don't personally see a problem with this, but what do you think? Do you think that these changes to medical vehicles just utterly break it? Do you think that by trying to make these changes, we're really just trying to dig up something that really needs to be taken back to formula? That there's actually just a fundamental problem with the medic rule itself, and that's what's keeping us from seeing them regularly fielded at all levels of competition? Let us know down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.